What is Web 3.0 and why does it matter?
There are two major social forces afoot on the internet, the forces of centralization and decentralization. This turns out to be a fruitful conceptual schema. So first, let's talk about the forces of centralization. Now, as much as we might like to complain about it, social media continues to dominate our social lives, at least for many of us, in the current cultural moment. And social media giants continue to exert tremendous pressure to keep us interacting in ways that they dictate. And big tech corporations are now working more and more closely with governments around the world to bring these trends, which they view as highly alarming, back under control. But the forces of decentralization are pushing back against these movements. People on this side are especially upset at social media giants grabbing our data and analyzing it with sophisticated algorithms, so sophisticated that we call it AI, right? Then they sell this analyzed data to the highest bidder. This deeply offends the sensibilities of the decentralizers. This is why some, like myself, are calling for social media to be indeed decentralized, wholesale. We should own our own data. I also suspect that one of the main reasons that blockchain has been exploding in popularity, especially in the last few years, is that it gives us the opportunity to take back control over our data and our relationships. Besides, blockchain doesn't just let us reject the arrogant privacy stealing of big tech, it also creates brand new economies, decentralized economies. There is, as I've said, a massive push to centrally control our data at exactly the same cultural moment when there is an equally massive push to decentralize our data, rendering it impossible to control. So isn't that strange? What's even stranger, perhaps, is that a lot of us don't yet seem to regard these two forces as being in conflict. What will Web 3.0 look like? Clearly, the technologies of both collectivism and individualism are becoming much more sophisticated, as we've seen in recent talks in this conference. On the one side, we have massive centralized networks with increasingly sophisticated AI. On the other side, we have massive investments in blockchain technologies and other technologies that let us take control of our own data. So, what's going to happen? There are too many factors to weigh. Perhaps the most unpredictable factor is not the shape of future technology, but how government will support or destroy it. Will we break up the social media giants and force them to decentralize? Maybe. Will blockchain and crypto take off and enable new, independent, global economies to flourish without central regulation? Or on the contrary, will governments empower social media giants through regulatory requirements that their smaller competitors cannot meet? Will they regulate blockchain and crypto into irrelevance? I don't know. How could anyone know? One thing I am fairly sure of, however, in the long run, not all of these things can happen, certainly not in the same place, because they're in a massive political tension. This is a powder keg that is ready to explode. Then, when it does, we will all learn that there is such a thing as internet politics. We will soon be fighting over these questions. That much seems inevitable.